Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story about ambition, betrayal, and a 5-year-long plan for the coldest, most satisfying revenge I've ever heard. If you've ever had a family member who felt entitled to your hard work, this one is for you. This is the story of my cousin, Beth, a woman who believed that everything I earned should somehow belong to her, simply because we shared a last name. The conflict started with my first big real estate flip, a rundown house that I poured every drop of sweat and savings into. When she demanded I sell it to her for practically nothing, and I refused, she decided to burn my dream down. She sabotaged the house and cost me a fortune. But life has a funny way of delivering karma, and years later, when she found herself homeless and begging for help, I was the only one who could save her. And I did. But the cost of that family discount was something she'd never forget. Get ready for a story about an entitled family member learning the hard way that entitlement always comes with a price tag. My entitled cousin demanded I sell her my $500,000 house flip for family discount, then sabotaged the inspection. Years later, she was homeless. I handed her the lease agreement. I've always been independent. While most of my extended family relies on handouts and drama, I worked my butt off to get a degree in finance and save every penny I could. My dream was never to work for someone else forever. I wanted passive income, freedom, and stability. When I was 28, I finally had enough saved to take the plunge. I bought my first investment property. It was a complete disaster, a crumbling, moldy nightmare of a house in a promising neighborhood. I named it The Pit, but I saw the potential. For the next 2 years, that house was my entire life. I hired contractors, learned basic plumbing and electrical work myself on YouTube, and spent every weekend covered in drywall dust and sweat. I liquidated my 401k, risky, I know, but I was sure, and poured every cent into it. The plan was to sell it for a significant profit, enough to launch my next 2 projects. By the time I was finished, The Pit was a pristine, open-concept, 3-bedroom beauty. The estimated selling price was just shy of $500,000, meaning I was looking at a clean $120,000 profit. I felt invincible. Now, let's talk about my cousin, Beth. Beth is the poster child for entitlement. She's gorgeous, charming when she wants something, and utterly convinced that the universe, and specifically her family, owes her everything. She never held a job for more than 6 months, relying entirely on her parents, my Aunt Carol and Uncle Joe, to bail her out of debt, pay her rent, and finance her lifestyle. When she heard about my project, not from me, but through gossip at a family party, her interest immediately spiked. She started dropping by unannounced. At first, it was harmless. "Oh my God, Sarah, this looks amazing. You're so talented." Then the demands started. "You know, this house is exactly what I need," she said one Tuesday, leaning against a freshly painted wall. "I'm looking to move out of that cramped apartment. It's too small for my new yoga practice." I laughed. "Well, Beth, it's going on the market next week. You'll have to move fast." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop. You know I can't afford a $500,000 house. You have to sell it to me. Beth, this is an investment. It's how I make my living. I can't just give it away." She scoffed. "Give it away? We're family, Sarah. I'm thinking a family discount. Like 50% off, minimum. Or maybe you can just rent it to me. Cheap, obviously. I'll pay you back later." I explained, calmly, exactly why that was impossible. This wasn't some little side hustle, this was my financial future. I told her I could help her find a legitimate realtor, but I couldn't sacrifice my profit. That didn't go over well. Beth immediately ran to Aunt Carol, claiming I was greedy and putting money before family. Aunt Carol, who always treated Beth like a precious porcelain doll, called me the next day. "Sarah, honey, you need to understand. Beth has been through so much lately," Aunt Carol sighed dramatically. "She deserves a break. Can't you just give her a good deal? Say, $200,000? Think of it as a family favor. It's just money, but you'd be securing Beth's future. I felt my blood pressure rise. Aunt Carol, I invested $380,000 and 2 years of my life into this. Selling it for $200,000 means I lose $180,000. That's not a favor, that's financial destruction. Well, she huffed, if you truly loved your family, you would make sacrifices. That was the last straw for me with my aunt. I told her flat out, the price is $495,000, firm. Beth needs to learn that life doesn't hand out free houses. I hung up before she could start crying. The house went under contract the next week with a lovely couple named the Wilsons. We set the closing date for 45 days later, contingent on the final inspection. I was so close. I was already scouting my next property. A week before the closing, I noticed something odd. Beth was driving by the house slowly every day. I'd installed a Ring camera after a few minor vandalism issues in the neighborhood, but I didn't think much of it until the day before the inspection. I was doing a final walkthrough, cleaning every window pane, when I saw a faint, muddy footprint by the utility closet in the basement. I knew I hadn't been down there since the walls were painted. I checked the Ring footage later that night. There she was. Beth, wearing gloves, sneaking in through the window I'd left slightly ajar for ventilation, a stupid mistake I will never make again. She was only in there for maybe 10 minutes. She wasn't stealing anything. She was just in the basement utility room. I couldn't make out exactly what she was doing. My gut sank. The next day, the inspection happened. I got the call from the realtor 2 hours later. He sounded devastated. Sarah, I don't know how to tell you this, but the Wilsons are pulling out. What? Why? Everything was perfect. It's the basement, Sarah. The inspector flagged massive, catastrophic issues. The main sewage line appears to have been severely damaged, and they found tampering with the electrical junction box. It looks like a recent, deliberate hack job. We're talking at least $50,000 in immediate, invasive repairs, and potential long-term structural issues from what looks like water damage. My blood ran cold. Catastrophic. Deliberate. I knew exactly who had been in that utility closet. I drove straight to the house, heart pounding. I looked at the electrical panel, and sure enough, there was a tiny, telltale scratch near the main breaker where someone had pried it open and shorted a few wires. It wouldn't have shown up until the main power was tested heavily. And the sewage line? I went into the utility room and noticed a faint chemical smell, bleach. She hadn't broken the line, she had poured something caustic down the overflow drain, damaging the interior seals just enough to cause a slow, serious leak that the inspector's moisture meter caught instantly. She knew exactly what she was doing. She didn't want the house, she just wanted to make sure I didn't get the profit. The deal collapsed. The Wilsons moved on. I was facing $10,000 in lost fees, plus the cost of fixing the damage, which turned into a horrifying $75,000 when they had to dig up the foundation to access the pipe. My profit of $120,000 evaporated into a meager $35,000 after all the costs and delays. I was devastated. I had poured my entire heart into this, and she destroyed it just to spite me. I confronted Beth over the phone. I didn't even try to be civil. You were in my house, I spat. The inspector found deliberate sabotage. You cost me over $100,000, Beth. She went silent for a moment, then burst out laughing. Oh, come on, Sarah. Are you seriously blaming me because your cheap flip couldn't pass inspection? Maybe you should have hired better contractors. I saw you on the security footage. I have the timestamps. I know you did it. Her voice hardened. Good luck proving it, cuz. And maybe next time, you'll remember what family is for. Now, I have to go. Click. I was furious. I considered suing, but the lawyer I consulted said proving she caused the specific damage maliciously would be incredibly difficult without an admission. It would be years of legal battles that would drain my remaining capital. I decided to cut my losses, fix the house, and sell it quickly, which I did, to a different couple, for less than the original asking price because of the delay. That day, I made a silent vow: I would never, ever forget what Beth did. I severed all ties. I blocked Beth, Aunt Carol, and Uncle Joe. I moved on with my business, working twice as hard to recoup the losses. I started my second flip immediately, then my third, and within 5 years, I was successfully running a small real estate investment company. I was financially secure, happily single, and thriving. I put the pit, the house that started it all, out of my mind, selling it to a lovely couple who fixed the minor issues I couldn't afford to address at the time. I bought a new, beautiful primary residence, a large, fully renovated house in the city, exactly the life I had planned for myself. Beth, however, did not thrive. I'd hear snippets of gossip occasionally from distant cousins who weren't blocked. She had gotten married, moved across the country, and immediately started spending money she didn't have. Her husband eventually divorced her after she racked up $40,000 in credit card debt on business ventures that went nowhere. She lost her job, she lost her apartment, and she lost her car. She was back in town, living out of her car, begging friends and family for help. Everyone she knew was either burnt out from her previous manipulation or simply didn't have the space. About 2 weeks ago, I got a text message from an unknown number. "Sarah, it's Beth. I know you hate me, but I need your help. I'm desperate." I didn't reply immediately. I saved the text. I waited 2 full days. Then, I replied simply, "What do you need?" She called immediately, sobbing hysterically. "Sarah, I'm homeless. I lost everything. I need a place to stay. Just for a month. Please." I know I was awful, but please, I'm family. I listened patiently to her entire pathetic story. The lies about the business, the divorce, the debts. She sounded broken, but also annoyingly entitled, still clinging to the idea that because I was successful, I automatically owed her refuge. "I can help you, Beth," I said, my voice calm, almost sympathetic. "I have a property that just became available. I haven't listed it yet. It's fully furnished, high-end, perfect location." Silence on the line, interrupted only by a hitching sob. "Really? Oh my God, Sarah, thank you. I knew you wouldn't let your cousin freeze on the street. I'll take good care of it, I promise." "It's not free, Beth," I clarified. "It's a rental. And the terms are very specific. You'll have to sign a lease agreement." "Of course. Anything. Just tell me the address." I gave her the address of the house she had ruined 5 years ago. I had bought it back 2 years earlier, when the Wilsons sold it in a down market. I had completely stripped it and redone the entire thing again, turning it into a truly premium rental unit, the crown jewel of my portfolio. It was now appraised at $550,000. "Meet me there tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll have the lease ready." I spent that evening with my lawyer, drafting the most meticulous, non-negotiable lease agreement ever written. I didn't want to just make her pay rent, I wanted her to literally pay for the $100,000 she cost me, inch by inch, psychologically and financially. The next morning, Beth was waiting on the curb when I pulled up in my Lexus. She looked awful, unwashed, tired, wearing clothes that had definitely seen better days. When she saw the house, the newly manicured lawn, the crisp white paint, the polished brass fittings, her eyes widened. She remembered it, I could tell. It was exactly the dream house she had wanted, now perfected by my success. "It's beautiful, Sarah," she breathed, running a hesitant hand over the stone porch. "You really bought it back?" "Yes," I confirmed, opening the door. "Come in." The interior was flawless. She walked from room to room, touching the marble countertops, looking out the large windows. This is perfect. What's the rent? I can probably afford maybe $800 a month. I invited her to sit at the granite kitchen island. I placed a thick, leather-bound folder in front of her. Here is the lease agreement, Beth. It's month-to-month, non-negotiable terms. I need the first month's rent and security deposit today. She eagerly opened the file. Her eyes darted down the page until they hit the numbers. Her jaw dropped. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "The monthly rent is $4,000? I leaned forward, my hands flat on the cold countertop. Yes. That's market rate for a fully furnished, high-end 3-bedroom in this neighborhood. And the security deposit? That's 3 months up front, so $12,000. She looked up at me, bewildered. "Sarah. I just told you I'm homeless and broke. I can't afford $4,000 a month, let alone $12,000 up front. That's insane. What kind of family does that?" "The kind of family that believes in consequences," I said, my voice ice cold. "Look at Section D, subsection 4. She flipped the page, her fingers shaking as she scanned the paragraph. Her eyes widened again. Section D, subsection 4 was titled, Maintenance of Structural Integrity. It stipulated that the tenant must personally handle all minor maintenance, including weekly plumbing inspections and a mandatory bi-weekly electrical audit to ensure the junction box remains free of unauthorized access or tampering. It even mandated the specific, specialized, and very expensive cleaning fluid required for the kitchen drains, and included receipts proving its exorbitant cost. "Why do I need to inspect the sewage lines every week?" she demanded. "Because the last time this house was inspected before closing, someone poured caustic chemicals down the overflow, causing $75,000 in damage and costing me an additional $30,000 in lost revenue," I replied, meeting her stare without blinking. "I lost $105,000 because of malicious sabotage. This lease ensures that the tenant takes personal responsibility for the infrastructure." Then she saw the second part of the agreement, detailed in Appendix A, the non-monetary terms. It was a long, humiliating list of requirements I knew she'd hate. 1. Weekly video check-ins proving the house is spotless. 2. A mandatory, non-waivable cleaning service every Friday, paid for by the tenant, $300 per week. 3. No overnight guests for the first 6 months. 4. Mandatory employment within 30 days, verified by paycheck stubs sent directly to me. Her face was a mask of disbelief and rage, but she couldn't yell because she was utterly dependent on me. She finally realized what I was doing. This wasn't a family favor, this was a contract, a transaction, and a payment plan for her 5-year-old crime. "You're doing this on purpose," she breathed, tears welling up again, but these were tears of anger, not sadness. "You're punishing me for something that happened years ago." "I'm offering you a lease on a premium property at market rate," I corrected. "You can pay the full amount and meet the terms, or you can walk. I'm not the one who put you in this position, Beth. You did that all by yourself. The universe just decided I was the one who should collect the debt." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a worn, printed document. "This is the original repair invoice for the sewage and electrical work from 5 years ago. $75,000. Every month you pay the rent, you pay down your debt to me. Every time you clean a drain, you atone for your actions. This is your chance to learn that entitlement has consequences, and I am the interest rate." She sat there, staring at the lease, then at the house, then at me. She knew no one else would help her. She knew she was trapped. "I don't have $12,000, she finally whispered, defeated. "I know," I said, my voice softening slightly, because I wasn't entirely heartless. "But since you are family and I believe in learning lessons, I will waive the first 2 months' rent, applying that $8,000 toward the deposit. You owe me $4,000 today, plus the $300 cleaning fee, and you must begin your job search immediately." She looked at the contract again. It was a humiliating proposition, expensive and restrictive. But it was a roof over her head, and it was better than sleeping in her car. Slowly, reluctantly, she signed the lease agreement. As she signed, I saw the exact moment the realization hit her. She wasn't living in a house, she was living in my terms, haunted by the memory of her own entitlement. I handed her the keys, accepted the meager $4,300 payment, and smiled the most genuine smile I'd worn in years. "Welcome home, Beth," I said. "And remember the inspection schedule." I haven't heard from Aunt Carol or Uncle Joe since this happened, probably because they're busy fielding frantic, furious phone calls from Beth, who now has to submit her job applications to me for approval. I check in every Friday morning via video call, and every week, she looks more exhausted, but the house is spotless. She's currently working 2 minimum wage jobs just to afford the monthly payments. She's learning responsibility, discipline, and the true cost of $105,000 worth of spite. It's the most beautiful revenge I could have ever planned. What a cold, calculated, and ultimately satisfying turn of events. Beth learned the hard way that when you sabotage someone else's dream, you end up paying the price yourself. Now, I want to know what you think. Was Sarah's revenge too harsh, or did Beth deserve every single penny and humiliation detailed in that lease agreement? Let me know down in the comments. If this story satisfied that little thirst for justice we all have, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. See you in the next one.